Well, hello everyone, and welcome once again to Ignite with Sandy. Yep, this is the program where we bring you interesting women from all over the world, different walks of life, different ages, different professions, and the variety just goes on. But the purpose of Ignite with Sandy is to ignite those neurons. And so we bring on people who share information, share experiences, share expertise, which then make it easy for the listener and the viewer to say, I could do something with that. She made a valid point. I'm going to incorporate that. So that's what the Celestial magazine is all about. It's all about the work life balance, bringing in information that can make your life more successful, happier, not only on the work side, but also on the relationship side. And we all know that, especially for women, work, business, family, everything is intermingled. It's not separate boxes. So it's important for us to get a good sense of what is out there, what's happening, what are the new developments, how are things progressing. And today I have a very interesting guest of mine. She's actually the first guest of mine who's from Saudi Arabia. And I think it's really wonderful to have the opportunity to see what's happening over there. And her topic, when I was talking to her, she was very clear. She said, I want the topic to be fostering authentic leadership. That's a nice one. And as you know, I never ever introduce my guests, but I always get them to introduce themselves. So I'm going to bring on this charming young lady who has got a wealth of experience behind her to introduce herself. Welcome, my
Oh,
dear. And please introduce yourself to our audience. We're waiting to hear from you.
thank you, Sandy. Thank you. Appreciate it and appreciate you hosting me on your show. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Fatma Ibrahim. I'm an executive coach. So, if I am to coach you, I'll be facilitating a conversation that you're having within you and yourself. I have a wealth of experience in human resources, 22 years of experience, 13 years in leadership. I've been working with a lot of C-level people, trying my best to get the best out of them, whether they're leadership women or men, to be authentic as much as possible. So that's it, Sandy. So do you want to start?
Oh, yes, my dear, I do really want to start. So, you said that you have quite a few years of experience working with C-suite people. So, could you give us a sense of in these last 20 years, have you seen any changes, any developments, any going forward, or is it the same style that we had? What have been your observations on the leadership side?
Good question. Well, definitely there has been a lot of changes, especially when it comes to women. So women have been for the last 5, 10 years now more in the workforce. So since they're more in the workforce and in leadership positions, there have been a lot of challenges, especially when she feels she's the only female among a lot of men. She's doubtful, she's not sure, she feels alone. However, she's very competent technically, but that puts her in a very awkward position when she has so many men surrounding and they're dominant. So she kind of feels, am I in the right place? Am I going to make the right decision or not? So basically, these are most of the challenges in terms of getting her out there and making her confident.
Okay,
Yes,
so
Sandy?
what I'd like to hear from you is, and this is what is my personal observation, and I'm not a executive coach, so I obviously don't look for those different indications and indicators. But from what I've noticed is sometimes when women are put into positions of authority, decision making, etc., they try and start acting like men, and they feel that unless they're firm, and unless they giving it to you, and giving you orders as instead of requesting, they won't be taken seriously. So, do you think this is something that women should be changing?
Let me tell you from a very personal experience. A little story of mine. So when I used to work in one of my companies, I had a female boss, and she was one of the lead executives and very few in her field at the time. And she was the only female in that executive line. And she was very, very, very challenging and demanding, especially also with the women. I mean, I would remember being kicked out of meetings. I would remember she shouting at me. I would remember paper thrown at me and so on. But I was in a really senior role. So I understood where she was coming from, right? Because she was the only female. From my experience, I mean, my perspective at the time, I took her, you know, very diplomatically, and I was very patient with her. So she changed her attitude towards me from having zero tolerance to a lot of tolerance, and I was one of her best employees at the time, because just because I was a woman like her, and I understood where she was coming from. She was insecurity, a lot of pressure, getting on her deadlines, and so on. Having said that, women nowadays, although she had a lot of experience under her belt, nowadays, I'm inviting and coaching women to be more authentic. So if you are a leader, you does not mean that you're a boss. So you need to be more authentic. You need to be more understanding. You do not have to shout. You do not have to, and they're there because what's happening right now, there are a lot of women are getting into leadership positions without having the proper experience and exposure. So all what they have is the power of their position. So the competencies of leadership is not there yet, where one of them is being really authentic, right? So when you're authentic, meaning your decisions are not coming from the ego, it's coming from authenticity and from your soul. So you feel comfortable and other feels comfortable too.
All right, I get that. So, when you have made these observations, as you said, from your personal experience as well, and you being the person that you are, observant and knowing that you need to get the best out of yourself and have a healthy working relationship and also atmosphere in the office, uh, that's not true of most employees, right?
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, and it sometimes brings down the level of performance. And of course, when the performance goes down, the deadlines are not met, and there's a lot of negativity in the office atmosphere. So, in your coachings that you do, what is it that you actually talk about? Because from what I'm observing is that you are looking at the coaching from a completely different perspective to what other coaches look at.
Well, as you said, it's all about, as I said before, it's all about authenticity. So I do not, I mean, it's not about only the material world. And I'm always going through the deadlines. I'm always achieving your goals. It's not the what that I'm concerned. It's the how. It's the way we are doing it. So how can we match? Make it more holistic. The more approach, more holistic, instead of being too materialistic and harsh. We also are listening to our souls. So how do I mix the spiritual part and the material world together to bring that authenticity, right? This is where I work on a lot of self-reflecting questions when I'm coaching. So I've had some clients where when I'm asking them, so how do you feel with your decision? It's like, mm, not good. So why are you doing it? Because I can. You know what I mean? So this is where the more I'm reflecting it more on himself or herself, and they realize where is this decision is coming from, the more they are self-observant and they try their best, because human beings are human beings, and as a nature they will always try to do their best. You know, however they're doing it, I am very much sure that they're doing it out of goodness. But probably they just want to be more self-reflective to, and this is where I come in, and we work through that process and we reach there, and it has to start somewhere. And I believe it starts from the top.
All right. So starting from the top. Well, if I'm an employee or a middle management person, I expect to be given direction. I expect to be told what to do. I expect uh, to be given deadlines, and I have to meet those deadlines. Now, suddenly, if I have a boss who's becoming, very authentic and being very gentle and nice and inviting, you know, collaboration and contribution and all of the things that are supposed to be working for us. How do you think employees are going to look at a boss who's doing all of these things when they're expecting to be given direction, deadlines, and be monitored?
You know what? It's not separate. It's actually the same. It's as I said. So it's not it's how you do it. We still have the deadlines. So an authentic leader who understands that this person needs clear directions and deadlines, they will give it to them with care, with not being an order or bossy, right? And they will expect, like, these are my expectations, these are the deadlines, and these are your deliverables. So I expect you to do it one, two, three, four respectfully, right? Without, I mean, if what if that employee is sick that day? What if there is a death problem? What if it's he has a performance issue for whatever reason? How would the leader would act? This is where I come in. Does he need to be ballistic and throw around papers because the deadlines are not met? He's a leader. He needs to observe these things. This is what authenticity means. Observe it in a way. Otherwise, he should not be in that position, right? He needs to know how to orchestrate and, lead the team in a way where he does have his strength, his position, his power, and he knows how to use it and distributes this towards his team and make them work, right? Or not make them work, support them to work. It's more of a service. Like, how can I serve you better? So tell me, how can I support you in achieving the deadlines? What's missing, right? What do you need? Is there anything that probably they're not meeting the deadline because there is something missing? There is a process, there is a block that's not there, right? And there is a miscommunication between the management and the employees. This is where authentic leadership comes in, to bridge that gap, to do that communication, to make that strength, right? To make that bond so that corporate life can move authentically.
Yes, I get what you're saying, and obviously the bottom line matters. So when you have happy employees, happy people working for you, obviously profits will be there. Everybody will be in a more positive way, whether it's money or it's health or it's attitude. I get that. So when you're working with C-suite people, I'm not saying men, I'm saying people, how do you get them to change the I'm the boss, whatever I say goes, that kind of thing, because it's so much part of the process that has been going on for so long. So how do you what is your USP that says, okay, this is not the way to do it, maybe perhaps you should do it this way, because you're coming in as the coach, you're also pointing out to them things that have not been working. And when you're in that position of power, most people have a big ego who don't necessarily accept that. So when you are bringing about this massive change in the way they think and the way they do, how do you approach them to get buy-in to the project that you are going to be working on? That means authentic leadership.
So when we start our coaching relationship, there is a contract that's been signed There is, the ice that's been broken. So there is a way of, you know, getting into that relationship in a way where sometimes, probably not the first time, not the second time, but surely the third session, I would say I need you to take off the hat of the CEO or the hat of the role that you're wearing and come as a human, as you, as a being in this session. So that's number one. Number two, ego is not a bad thing. Ego is actually, let's call it like it's a barking dog, which has dog fights all the time, right? So why can't we have that dog serving us instead of we serving it, right? So if the ego can be tamed and I can name it and I want it to serve me in a better way, how can I be better? Because the ego is there. It's not gonna go away, right? It's just barking, barking, barking. So which kind of a dog do you want to choose? What do you want to name it? And what are the qualities that you want to see in that dog, if I may say it this way? So there are some nice qualities there.
I'm quite sure. And are you going to list some of those qualities for us?
Well, if I'm gonna put it under that metaphor of the barking dog, so is it a German Shepherd or a Chihuahua? Is it a police dog or is it someone who's lovey and dovey and walks around you and wants attention? So you need to put these. Is it loyal? Is it protective? Is it so? Probably most of the egos comes from insecurity and protection, right? So they want to protect themselves, they want to protect their egos, they want their images, they want to protect what people is going to say about me. This is one of the most biggest questions that the egos or the barking dog has, right? So they have that dog fight all the time. So you want to calm down that sort out this fight in a way where you can have a conversation with that being, if I may say, to bring that quality. So I cannot put that qualities on them. Every person will put the qualities or what do they want to see in their egos. There is no standard for it.
Very true. And as you said, each person has their own personality. Each person's coming with their own emotional baggage. Each one's coming with their experiences from childhood. And so there's no one fit for all. Everybody is an individual. So do you do a lot of, Q&A with people whom you're going to be coaching? Do you give them questionnaires? How do you draw them out so that you know what you're supposed to do to make it better for them?
Well, um, Sandy, for me, it's basically giving them that safe space because it's a very vulnerable space. I've had people crying and cracking, right? So it's just mainly inviting them in a safe space, in a safe area where they can be them with no filters, with no shields, with no. So because when I'm asking these questions, so for example, it's not a questionnaire, it happens spontaneously. Example, so if they are going through their goals or there's a situation that's happening when they're building their strategy. So how does the strategy look like? It's vague. Okay, when you focus more, so what's the end result that you want to look into? What do you want to have at the end? Right? Okay, I want to be the first leading market in Saudi Arabia. Okay, how does that look like? Let's drill into that more. So this is how it goes on and on and on. So there is no one set of questions. There are tools, right? There are a lot of tools. And because I've been doing this for a very long time, so I kind of mix and match these tools. I use the logical level sometimes, or I use a very structured questioning like the star on reflection, or I use um, there's a questioning called the hierarchy level. So or the balance wheel to prioritize and have my client have more clarity on what he wants to do, right? The scaling. So yeah, I mean it's different. I just mix and match tools to get to that
Okay,
level.
so what I've been noticing is when you refer to a client, it's always male.
Well, this is what I've had so far. I mean, I have very the women that I have, they're aspiring females. They're not yet in that level. They're senior managers, probably. I have a couple of directors, but not a C level, who are reporting to a C level. But yes, most of the women that I have, they're on leadership positions, on directors, or or aspiring to be a director or aspiring to be a C level.
Okay, fine.
We're
So
still getting there.
I'm sure. Well, it's just early days actually, in the corporate sector, in the government sector, where women are stepping up to the plate and taking on more responsibilities and doing the stuff. But I think in some cases it could be that because they're qualified, they have good education, etc. So that's the education part, but it's not the experience part. So they're the two E's, education and experience. And so now, do you feel that women are sometimes being thrown into the deep end and some of them can't really swim very well?
Um, Absolutely. And I think this is the case that's happening nowadays a lot. So, how do we resolve that? I had a case. She was a project manager, and she was a PhD or master's degree. She came from abroad, and immediately they got her into that high position without any experience as a project manager, right? And this is burning her out. So when I asked her, would you consider going back in your career? She's like, no, her ego wouldn't let her to go back in her career. So what would you do to level up? Because you need that exposure. And at times you don't know what decisions to take because you don't know, right? What are you going to do? So some of the solutions that we came up here was having a mentor. It's very important to have a mentor. So whenever you're stuck in a situation, you can speak to a person who has massive experience in that area and they can support you out. That's number one. Number two, do not hesitate to ask. Just be shameless. Learn and learn and learn. Ask. Take more projects so you build that experience as soon as you can, because this is what you're going to need going forward, right? The technical knowledge is there, but the experience that comes from work, from dealing with people, from putting yourself in difficult situations, this is going to take you to the next level.
Okay, so now we're looking at mostly women in the corporate sector. Do you come across any women who are now venturing into starting their own businesses? Because you don't always need mentoring if you're in the corporate sector. You need mentoring if you're starting your own business. If you want to be the entrepreneur, you want to be your own boss, you still have to communicate, you still have to have your game plan, whatever else. So, do you have any people that you are mentoring who are in starting out their businesses?
Honestly, no, I haven't. I haven't been dealing with those kind of people, not yet.
Okay, but do you feel that this is something where you would be moving in the future?
I haven't thought about it because my expertise lies more on the leaders who are there and who are not doing well or want to do well and they want to be more authentic, or this is where at least this is where I am aiming my journey. In fact, I'm actually working on a retreat. It might be a full day retreat. So a full day retreat that contains in nature, outside, where we could talk about a little bit of the ego and how to break it, get them out of their comfort zones, doing things that they get out of the comfort zone to break what people think of me. They're going to be some yoga, some meditation, some breath work. So these are the combined things to, there's also a little workshop on convictions and judgments and labeling. So it's a combined thing that at the end uh, it gives them the community. So there are more than one people who are like us, and then either it's a collaboration between me and some other colleagues with me. So I have another coach who's going to be facilitating a men's circle. So, what is manhood is all about? Is it being harsh, bossy? I'm not allowed to cry, or I'm not allowed to express myself, or what is it all about? So he's going to be facilitating these kind of conversations among these men.
That sounds really nice. And I hope one day you'll come to Dubai and the UAE and do one for us as well.
Sure, whenever it's a successful then I'll definitely do it.
Yeah, no, actually, it is. I've attended a couple of these, not in the UAE, but elsewhere, and I think they're absolutely amazing. What you can achieve when you take people out of their so-called comfort zone, and when they're out there having to make do with, I wish I had this. Oh, I reaching out for this and not having it, and all that kind of stuff. And then you realize there's so much drama that we surround ourselves with when we can actually do pretty well with maybe 50% less stuff than we actually use,
Right,
right? So,
right.
one thing that's really, I'm not a very technical person, and
Mm.
maybe I'm old school to a certain extent. I like that human interaction. So, what is your take? Because nowadays I hear a lot about things about this AI. Okay, it's like overtaken our world. So,
Oh,
what is your take on AI when it comes to uh, relationships, when it comes to leadership, when it comes to, bringing out the best in a person? Because it's not a
right.
person anymore, right?
So I was in a conversation. It was a workshop that was going on, and they were talking a lot about how AI is taking over not management positions, or a lot of the processes. So we will not need coaches, or we would not need um, meeting rooms and human interactions. It's actually killing human. And the comment that struck me, that AI is overtaking humanity. I was like, yes, it is. But you know what? They will never beat humanity, because still AI is made by humans, and us are made by a higher power and a higher creator, and we're still perfect. So you cannot compare AI with humanity. Is it destroying it? Yes, it is. And this is why I think coaching is being more and more and more needed, because people are afraid to talk to people face to face. They're so comfortable speaking from a screen or from a virtual room and so on, but that authenticity is gone, right? Even in relationships, chat GPTs. So you're not being really authentic and writing your own feelings and how you feel. It's just AI is giving it to you. So how much truth does it lie there? So if someone comes and tells me that AI is overpowering humanity and they're better, I would say no. It's killing humanity, because our creator is greater than AI's creator. Because AI is still created by human.
A wonderful way of putting it, my dear, and bring it very much into perspective. Because at the end of the day, we, as you said, we are created by something which is much higher than us, and will always be. And we are creating something that we want that something to then tell us what to do, which I think is very
Exactly.
silly, quite
It
silly.
is.
But yeah. So coming back to, I wanted your thoughts on starting young. So, generally, what happens when people graduate from university, they're full of knowledge from the books, and the research that they've done, and a couple of presentations here and there, and maybe a 6 months internship somewhere. But what I have observed is that they're pretty lost. And I wanted to know what is your opinion of people coming out of university? Do you think it would be a good idea for them to have something to do with mentoring and a mentorship course where people like you perhaps could go in and give them a taste of the real world?
Definitely. So, in the company that I'm working with right now, I trained 20 interns. There was an internship program, and I think companies should make more and more internship programs like that because it gives them the real atmosphere, what happens at work. So they go with the sales team and they see what happens. They go with the technical team and see when they're fixing a machine or fixing a technology and so on. So it's very important for them to have that, and companies who also have mentors within their organization. It helps the youngsters come out, and I have to say that I think the confusion is less than before when we used to be students, because now the technology and the information and the data that they have and the exposure that they have online and the way they study things and experiment things is much advanced. So I think nowadays when they come out, they just need the feel of the reality of how let's say a working environment or a business setup uh, is exists in an organization.
Okay, so you talked about, how the young people are very tech savvy and they've got this and they've got that and they know how to operate this and get the best of this and that. But I think what's really missing is the human touch,
Hmm.
right? So, how to interact with people, not a voice or some image that appears and gives you some a selection of answers or whatever based on your input. So because human
Right.
beings are different, right? So that I think that is an aspect that perhaps we should look at. So what do you think about that? Because that's exactly what you were talking about, AI, right? And the younger ones are more tech savvy than you, and of course I belong to another generation already altogether. But I find that the human touch is lacking. So, is that something that you could be recommending to work on in relationships, communication skills, etc.?
Absolutely. So, when I was talking about the internship program had a spectrum of public speaking, communication skills, presentation skills, how to deliver the message, and there's a graduation program that each student does. So the human interaction is super important. I mean, enough in because I work in a tech company, so they used AI to produce their project, but then they had to convey it to the board members or the leadership team that this project is sellable. So it was very important for them to know and have that interpersonal skills to sell their product. So yeah, it's very important. The human interaction is super important. And I I can see myself, or I think organizations are going to get there sometime, right? They're going to realize that this is very important, and they're going to get in. I mean, they're going to be getting these programs more in terms of mentors and coaches to be with the fresh graduates to support them with human interactions.
Quite true, because I find that I do a lot of work with students here. I'm sort of called in to give a presentation on financial planning and how they should be responsible about their money. And I find that number one, most of them are totally disconnected. It just doesn't make any sense to them. And I thought to myself, a couple of years ago, perhaps I would have got some more questions. Some people would have been curious to know. But nowadays, it's like, I have an app to do this. Why do I need you? I have an app to do this. Why is it important? So I think it's important to bring back that human touch. And I think from what I see, coaching should not only be for the C suite, coaching
Okay.
should be all along. And I think one of the main areas where I see people need to make changes is HR. What is your opinion on that? Because it says human resources, but I just want to get your feedback on what you think about human resources.
Well, I refuse to call it resources. That's number one. They're human capital, right? They are assets, and as I always say, I'm always wearing my hat of service. That how can I make your day better? Even if it's a bad situation like letting employees go, how do we do that, right? There is a way, authentic way of doing it, right? So this is what I keep in mind all the time. And I invite all my human resource or human professional colleagues to have that attitude. Number one. Number two, you're absolutely right, bang on, Sandy, that coaching does not have to be only for C-suite. However, yes, I do specialize in that area, but coaching, I have, when I've been through this, the conference, the coaching, the Arab Society coaching chamber or the conference there, I met with a lot of coaches and a lot of, specialties. So they were career coaches, they were coaches for youngsters, youth, they were coaches for trauma coaches. There were, it was huge. It was really huge. You cannot even think. I met with a coach. She was a coach for gamers. That was really interesting, right? So there are coaches, and it's a huge world. You can be a coach in anything you want, and there is a need for everything, right? However, I do specialize in the C-suite because I have a. Why do I specialize in that? I have a story behind it. Because of my personal experience with poor leadership, that was number one. Number two, that's why the vision that we have in Saudi Arabia, Vision 2030, and the generation that we have is very young in Saudi Arabia. It's between 25 to 35 years old. And this is the generations that carrying forward this vision. These are our future leaders. And this is where I want to step in. It's my responsibility towards that vision, my contribution towards that vision, to ensure that as much as I can within my capacity, these generation goes in an authentic way, in a healthy way, because I care for my country and I want that vision to be healthy. I want my country to be healthy. I want every organization that's working there and the people that I'm coaching, they're getting there in a healthy and authentic manner. So let's put it this way.
Wonderful. So we're coming to the end of our webinar, my dear, and I think you have some special words for us, which you would like to share. So here's your chance. I think it starts with the letter C.
Yeah. Since we're going through the era of AI and a lot of technology getting in, and how do I deal with especially the young people, I would say, and we've addressed a lot of that. I have this app, I have that app, and and AI is becoming the dominant. So I have the 7 C's module to be more human. It's the 7 C's for being more human. So the 7 C's are curiosity, care, courage, connection, compassionate, contemplation, and creative. So if we have these all C's together, be creative in dealing with other people and be creative with ourselves, be compassionate with other people and ourselves, be caring to other people and ourselves, and have the courage to be us as human and allow other people to be courageous as well. So I think and always be curious in terms of how can I make this thing better? How can I be more human? How can I make it easy for myself and others? Right? Um, if something that's not positive that's coming on from someone else, still be curious, like, I wonder what he's going through with no judgment. So that's humanity. And I invite everyone to go through this seven C's model of humanity. Google it, you're going to find it. There's a lot of material about it that's going to support you in being more human.
Okay, so can I add one more C?
Sure.
Charisma.
Right.
That's my one because I do the ABC of life, and for me, it's attitude, belief, courage, and charisma. It's dreams and determination. So I just
Right.
go with that. And I feel that this is the way that we can actually move forward because when we add all of this, then we know that we're actually giving people something to look at, something to look forward to because yes, there are challenges and there will always be challenges, but when we follow the path that you've just talked about, it becomes much easier. So thank you
Right.
very much, my dear, for sharing all this with us, and I hope we see you soon in Dubai. And if there's anything that you want further interaction, of course you can always get us on the Celestial platform. I'll be sharing all that as well with you. And thank you very much. And God bless from all of us.
Thank, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Santi. Appreciate hosting me here.
Not at all. My pleasure. So there you have it. A wonderful young lady from Saudi Arabia who has given us a lot of food for thought. And if we were under the impression that we have to make do new things, it's not really true because we have everything in us anyway, and that's what she brought out. So it's not about being, very unapproachable. It's about being in a safe place, bringing down barriers. A lot of us think that by putting up those barriers we are being the boss, so we are being the leader, but those barriers are actually preventing us from doing the job properly. And it's also not allowing us to see what the other person may be feeling or doing or whatever. And I think it's also very important, and this cannot be stressed more and more. It's clear vision. Many of us are confused, and sometimes we need outside help to clear our head, to give us the clarity so that we can move ahead. And also, it's okay to have a mentor. Many people think you're a weak person, you can't manage things on your own, you can't do this. Why do you need a mentor? You're a grown up. Well, we all need support, we all need help, and it's not something bad to ask for. In fact, if we are vulnerable enough to actually do that, we will be doing ourselves a favor. And if we are in leadership positions, if we are running our businesses, what do we want at the end of the day? Bottom line, what is that? We want a well run company. We want profits. We want money in the bank. And how is that going to happen unless we make a change? So reach out for people who are doing this as a specialization. Reach out to them and see what they can do for you. So, with that, we come to the end of another wonderful episode for Ignite with Sandy. And I'm sure we've been able to fire up the neurons in your mind. But before you go, you know what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to subscribe to the Celestial channel. You're supposed to, more important, view these wonderful episodes that we bring to you. And also, we do appreciate your comments. So, on that happy note, God bless and bye for now.